Right. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2A. This is working just fine. I think before we even do anything, sorry about the late episode. It's Tinto's fault. We were supposed to record this like way back, and then he's just too busy talking to heartbroken women. Didn't have time for us. Didn't have time for like I need to record with two men. Sorry, I'm already booked. Hello, Phil.
Good day, Danny. How are you doing, sir?
This is a fake greeting because we've already greeted each other. But let's get this podcast started. The magic of podcasting makes it feel like this is a fresh, brand new episode. Hey, before we go anywhere, I have to ask all of y'all. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Good to go.
Can you hear me?
Good to go.
Loud and clear.
Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are y'all?
Good to go.
Sound a big thing now.
Get mad now.
Let me hear a drum play.
Right. One day. I'm getting straight into it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Two Broke Twimbos. It's a special edition because we got a special guest. Someone is trying to take the throne of Zimbabwean podcasts here. And we figured we must invite him, cut him down to size a little bit. No, I won't even lie. I'll be looking at those charts and just be like, yeah, we're number 2. Who's number 1? The Pheeling station again. Wagwande. My name's Dan that guy, aka Danos the Mad Titan, aka Denford Wekumaraini, aka Tenimbi, my life entertainment, aka I swear if I see another meerkat meme on my timeline, someone's getting it, aka Akuna Moment Danmu.
Yeah, that's right. It's the unmistakable, the irrefutable, the unquestionable, that you will not catch me outside the Bullfield Chart, aka Flame Floss, the Big Boss, baby, aka Pizza P, aka Sex in the Lovu, aka I still need to figure out a replacement for the fill-on thing.
You can be
Fans,
aka Filling Station.
Actually, I'll get back to that. AKA Filthy Phil, aka Pizza P, and of course, Shabba, you take a drink. You know I've actually got a Tumblr blog that was called was it Feeling Station? No, Feelings. It was Feelings are for fairies. Yes, but I used to use Feels because Feels used to be my Twitter handle for a time. I remember when my main account got banned.
I remember Feels.
My Twitter handle was Feels because I was in my feelings. So yeah. Now that I think about it, Tinto, you stole my vibe. You're off my way. Copy my flow bar for bar, word for word.
We got a special episode today because we have a guest on. His name is Tinto from another podcast, The Pheeling Station, where they talk about... do your intro, the intro that you normally do.
Welcome to The Pheeling Station, a romantic family and friendship breakup podcast showcasing stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give you lessons from their experiences. Now, we hope you find today's episode of Two Broke Twimbos particularly interesting because man's in the building.
This man is profiting from y'all's pain. No, but that's dope. Thank you for coming through. We've been trying to link up with Tinto for a while. But schedules have not been aligning. I couldn't even tell you the day of week and the time that we're recording right now. This is commitment to our listeners. So make sure you do the Patreon thing because this is a big one. Before we actually get into what we talk about, Tinto, we like to start off our podcast by before we talk about any mess or nonsense, we want to celebrate. So we start our podcast with Zimbabweans doing big things around the world. Sometimes we focus on Africans. So I thought I would very quickly mention a rapper who we have mentioned several times on this podcast, all the way from the City of Kings, Awakiwe, who announced this week that she was going to be performing at Glastonbury Festival, which is going on right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So shout out to I don't know how it was an announcement that happened now. Like I don't know if it was I don't want to say anything that seems to take away from this because it's obviously a big deal and congratulations to Awakiwe. But it's wild to me that it was announced on the week that she's performing. I wonder if there was moves happening to like maybe replace someone and I don't know whatever happened. But man, huge shout out to Awakiwe, and I'm a big fan of her music. I've been listening to, I think she recently released an EP, I think. Dope rapper.
Do you know, just to add on to that, it's a really, really big thing to be on Glastonbury because I tried to get tickets for this year. They were sold out in 20 minutes. And I was using 4 different devices and 4 different devices over 5 different friends.
See, if you had hit me up, I would have linked you up with our Kiwi, and then you could have hit her up directly and be like, listen, I'm trying to come watch your show. You see,
Bruh.
But
that's big things, man. Congratulations to our Kiwi.
huge shout out to our Kiwi, man. And I believe the performance has already happened. I just I was looking for it and I couldn't find footage of it anywhere. But whichever way, shout out to our Kiwi being a Glastonbury. That's a big deal. That's just dope, man. It's dope to celebrate Zimbabweans who are making big things happen around the world. There was another Zimbabwean youth who performed well in Zim and is now being called out to South Africa for football, but that's another story for another day. Let's talk about the main thing that we are here for. You know what? When we were discussing like how do we frame this podcast, I want you guys to know that there's another podcast over on the Pheeling station where we do the normal thing that Tinto does, where Phil and I told stories about romantic. I don't know if breakup is the right word, but let's just say shenanigans. So
that's the perfect word to describe it.
If it's not yet up now, it will be up in the coming weeks. I don't know what Tinto has his release schedule, so make sure you go check out Two Broke Twimbos on the Pheeling station. Subscribe to it right now if you haven't. But we also thought that, hey, let's have Tinto on, and we'll do something a little bit different for this episode where we actually talk about, you've seen or you've heard a lot of stories of people's relationships, especially Zimbabweans, but I've even heard people from, I think I've heard a Kenyan, I've heard like different African countries particularly, and I'm pretty sure I heard someone white on your podcast also, but I was like,
yes, you have. So that white person you probably heard was the episode that we did. Well, in fact, there've been 2 white people, one from Canada, one from the US.
I say that not to, the reason I'm saying that is because the podcast done gone global, innit?
Yeah.
So shout out to you, man, for doing that. And I thought we can just have general conversation. There's some times that Phil and I have touched on relationships on this podcast. We're going to make this a relationship-centric one. We're going to get your takes on some stuff. And I also want to criticize you a little bit, but like constructively.
Of course. All up for it, brother. Come on.
No, not at all. I actually started listening to your podcast because I was like, who is this Zimbabwean podcast who's out here in all the charts regularly? And I'm now actually into it. And I stay like, babes, listen to this. And I play a snippet of something. I'm like, yo, isn't this crazy? People are wilding out there, man. Yo.
Too much.
There's nothing in the streets.
Can I just say,
yeah.
I know also giving Zimbos a lot of shout outs. I just want to give a shout out to you guys because whenever I've always listened to the intro, I wasn't sure whether you did that live. And seeing you do it live, I was in a bit of a trance for the first 30 seconds, you know. It really sets the vibe. I almost got up and started dancing because the music and everything that was happening is fire.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So shout out to you guys, man. That is a fire intro. And all the AKA things that you repeat so naturally and with ease. Yeah, now you guys are you're not onto something. You are something, man. And congratulations. Well done, fellas.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks.
I'm a small small. You know, we just be trying to do stuff here.
Nice.
So, brother, I was thinking maybe we can start off by talking about a few things that are trending around the world, especially if they lean in the direction of relationships, and that can transition into us sharing our takes from that lens. And then at some point, I would love to get you to tell us the story that you've been hinting at on your podcast. For a long while now, this superwoman that broke the heart of Tinto and made him become a relationship podcaster. And
superwoman.
And then we're going to end off the podcast by, in the style of the Pheeling Station, sharing some anonymous stories that have been shared with us by our Patreons. We have a Patreon group of supporters of the podcast, so we asked them to share their anonymous breakup stories. Some of them decided, I don't care about anonymity. Here's my name. I want you to know. But most of them are anonymous, and they tell their mini stories. So we'll just share some of those with you, and we can discuss. Does that sound good?
Sounds good, brother.
All right, let me start off with a story that came out of South Africa this week. So you're familiar with Tyler?
Mm-hmm.
So Tyler's obviously viewed as a beautiful woman. She's a global superstar at this point. There was a young man by the name of
Molweni.
Molweni. That's his name, correct.
Yeah, Molweni Madiba.
So Molweni he's a student at St. Stithian's Boys College, and for the past almost a year, my man Molweni has been really pushing for Tyler to be his date at the Madrid.
Wait, sorry. Okay. Saint Stidians, you said.
Yes. Why does that name familiar to you?
No.
Do you know this
Here
kid?
I was. Yes, Saint Stidians is like I think the third most expensive school in South Africa. It's just off Wittkop in Sandton. If you pass by it, Dan, it literally looks like a prison. It's got these massive 10-foot walls with guards, armed guards overlooking like ambassadors' children, VIPs.
I don't
all
want to
the
lie.
kids go.
There's no way Tyler was going to a school in the ghetto. for a
But
matric
here
dance.
I was thinking it was some plucky feel-good story of some sort. Meanwhile, this kid probably got dropped off to the dance in a G-Wagon.
Wait, let me tell the full story first. So, for the past almost a year, this kid has been heavy on social media, putting out what I consider in my hater self to be quite cringy content, saying, guys, help me to get Tyler to notice because I want her to be my date at the matric dance. So he'd been putting out all this content. He had all these like reels and TikToks and compilation videos of people in his school that were saying, yo, Molweni is one of the greatest guys around. Tyler, don't break his heart. You should be there for the dance, da-da-da. And her team and her were saying nothing, obviously. Anyway, this campaign ran for a long period. At some point, 5FM got involved. The radio station was now like, hey, we're putting this out there. We really want to make noise about this. Tyler, come be this man's date. Meanwhile, Tyler's in the States, right? She's touring and doing the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards and whatever. The day of the event, or maybe it was the day before, Molweni comes out and puts out a video and he says, look, guys, we tried, but she can't make it. So it is what it is. Thank you to everyone who tried to help me push this campaign. Then, surprise, surprise, she rocks up. There was no announcement that she's coming or that she's going to find her. What happened was we just started seeing pictures and videos of her at this matric dance, and then they started putting out all the content of her actually turning up to be this boy's date. Side note, wouldn't it be so sad if he ended up taking someone else and then she does turn up as his date?
Didn't he?
I don't know. I didn't like look at all the details.
But that would be the common sense thing to do. Like, sure, I've been shooting my shot on TikTok, but come on, it's a moonshot.
Yeah. Anyway,
So-
obviously,
so-
this was
But also you must understand, I'm not going home with Tyler. Tyler's going home. Like
no.
come
Okay,
on,
come
man.
on, Phil. Like, what is he? 17 years old or something? And Tyler's like,
That's what I'm
Bruh.
saying. So that's what I'm saying. So the gesture of her coming to the matric dance, it's not like I'm going to be all up on her. Like she's going to be there with her team. It's obviously not going to be romantic.
But Phil,
She-
yeah, but feelings play a role. So even if he asks someone else, that's my date. Oh my God, that's my date. And then now his actual date, which we know is a PR stunt, yes, his actual date shows up.
But guys, let's be honest. We must also understand. Excuse me. Do you have a number one hit single? I don't know. Do you have like, yo? Sometimes in life you have to take your L and understand it's fine, and you can use it as emotional blackmail later because you know, like now day after Mulway, she will be on him like, so remember last night? Yeah, you. better
Anyway,
keep
so
your noses.
I just looked it up. Turns out he didn't ask anyone. He says I was literally dateless because I asked Tyler, and then Tyler pulled through. The news was there interviewing him. And then during the interview, she comes and grabs him like, come, let's go inside and let's go sing. And go there. So anyway, so this is the situation that happened, right? So I raise it because I want to ask a couple of questions to you guys and I want to hear what you think. First of all, before Tyler actually came, the general conversation was, brother, you can't be this thirsty for attention. Don't do that. This is embarrassing. You'll realize when you're older and you'll look back on this time and you'll be embarrassed about all the noise that you made about trying to invite some girl over. Obviously, the situation has changed, so Tyler actually did pull through. Looking back at your childhood, if you were in your final year of high school and you were calling out for a celebrity in that manner, would you look back on it as embarrassing or would you be like, bruh, she came?
It's a fun story to tell. Like, I think
Phil, it's a fun story to tell if it's just about the fact that she came. There's a year of hard campaigning and caping and...
But once again, let me put it this way, Dan. I'm not saying you're wrong, but let me put it this way. there's a reason why you and I stopped discussing Drake and Kendrick on this website.
Mhm.
Those toxic opinions, those polarizing opinions,
Yeah.
that continue to this day. Like it's the reason, some of the reason why I've even blocked some of these keywords on social media. It's terrible. Those opinions are not being shared by teenagers. Those opinions are being shared by men in their 20s and 30s and sometimes even 40s.
Mhm.
Right?
Russian bots, honestly.
So there is no monopoly on terrible online opinions or terrible online campaigns. Any human being can have those and has had those. I think it's absolutely harmless for a child to do this because once again, it's a child.
Mhm.
You're trying to appeal to someone you're a fan of. If you don't win, cool. What I did notice is all of his schoolmates started participating in it.
Mm.
A lot of TikTok started participating. So you basically built a community over this fun community thing. So even if it didn't work out, there was still a fun community exercise that was had. What's the harm in that?
What do you think, Tinto?
Listen, I think it's an important lesson for the kid. I think your question is asking, would I look back and feel embarrassed? I think I would look back and feel a touch embarrassed. But also, probably if I look at it in my 40s and I'm a successful man, I'm going to be saying I've been driven from day one. You know, I saw something, I put my head to it, I was loud about it and it came through. Or even if it didn't come through, you will say that I learned to be focused and to be driven and to have no as not an answer that's sufficient for what I want to achieve and use that as a source of pride. So embarrassed, I don't think is the feeling that I would feel. I think I was just, I'll say to myself, I was expressive. I wasn't afraid of expressing what I want. And by doing exactly that, what I wanted came to me. It's one of those things, well, if I become a flat earther, you know how flat earthers tell you a whole lot of theories about stuff, about how this quartz metal, this quartz rock, you know, gives you aspirations for this. I would be saying that speak into the universe listens and it delivers. That's what I would be saying.
The
In a few
secrets,
years' time
you know
when I
what I'm
look
saying?
back. Yeah.
Paulo Coelho up in here. Yeah, so look, I was asking that from the perspective of devil's advocate. Honestly, I agree with both of you. Like, listen, this is one, you shot a huge shot. Obviously, if it's a big shot, I think we pay too much attention to trying to be cool. The kids are talking about aura farming. You can't look too thirsty. You can't look too desperate. You got to look cool. You got to look nonchalant. And I disagree, man. Like, be chalant. Be a little bit of chalant. You know what I mean? It's fine.
Be chalant.
You shot your shot. You missed. It happens. Shoot the next one. In this case, it just so happened to land. And now, my man is walking into college with times 1,000 aura. Walking in there like, yeah. I took Tyler out to the matric. Obviously, we all know it's a PR thing. And obviously, I think Tyler's team did a good job in making sure that, you know, they put out this feel-good story. I think Tyler has had a little bit of backlash from South Africa because sometimes she makes comments, you know, about, oh yeah, I love Nigerian music, and then you know how South Africans are about certain
Yeah.
Wait, walk me through this. I missed this part. When was the backlash for that?
No, there was some time back when they were asking, you know, Americans, Africa is Africa, you know what I mean? So they were asking about music and stuff, and then I think she was making reference to how she really likes Nigerian music, and then like there was this big movement about, hey, Tyler's one of those South Africans who are into Nigerians, the usual xenophobic stuff.
I'm not trying to be that person. But when you say a big movement, like, because also there's astroturfing a lot on social media, and I think we've learned. It's like we saw it last week.
Phil,
a bit of a deviation.
Give me a little bit of credit. I'm a little bit media literate. I'm not.
No. I'm not saying you're not illiterate. I'm trying to understand if it's Colbert and Chris Excel and you know, like those accounts and their minions. You know what I mean?
It was low key that, but I could see a lot of rhetoric on the socials about that. So anyway, even I was having a conversation with my wife, and she's from South Africa, in case you were not knowing, and she was like, yeah, there's a lot of South Africans who don't seem to like Tyler, and we were trying to figure out like why, and then she said some feel that she deliberately exaggerates her accent to really put forward the I'm from South Africa vibe, which, I mean, in my opinion, that's like, okay, cool. You know,
how's that a bad thing?
Yeah, I don't see it as a bad thing, but some people do. Anyway, the fact is,
but what do they expect it to sound like?
I think people there's a feeling that the closer to white you sound, the better you are. You know?
Right.
If you sound too rural, if you sound gouache, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You need to sound as close to white as possible for you to be acceptable. I think there's some
How-
people
how
who still
do-
kind of have that mindset. Anyway, this is not the main point of this discussion. I'm giving it as just as some context that I think it was a good PR move that, sort of endears her to South Africans and even the world in general. That global superstar comes to some kids.
But can I ask something? From whose lens are we really looking at that as a good feel thing? Because for me, this actually comes across as the prevalence of privilege among the rich and the famous. Because Molwane doesn't come from a poor family.
Yeah.
For starters, he pulled up in a Rolls Royce. I couldn't tell whether it was a Wraith or a Phantom, but it looks like it was a Wraith, right?
My man pulled up in a Rollie.
Yeah, man.
Damn, you're
Man,
leaving out some pivotal details in this story, bro.
Man pulls up in a Rollie, and then Phil, as he rightfully said, he comes from a very expensive school in South Africa. That's second, and then thirdly, right? This kid is the son of a princess of the Royal Bafokeng Nation, which is which is a tiny group in I think it's northwest South Africa. I know that they speak Setswana. And they've been given dominance over about 1,000 square meters of land, and they sit on the world's the world's second largest deposit of platinum. So
I know, Tinto, you do research,
yeah. So this
man.
guy is not actually a small fish, and I think the person who's been done a favor here is actually Tyler, not the kid. Because now Tyler has pulled up on royalty, and she's seen to be mixing with royalty. So PR stunt, yes, you are correct. But the good home, good feel thing, Tyler, I think you've been done a favor, my girl.
No,
This kid has pulled you into something really important and something really big.
And I was skirting around it before because I didn't have all this context. But the moment Dan said St. Stithians, I already knew what it was. If I, for example, am a publicist, I'm trying to control for variables.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm controlling for the variables, if it's a St. Stithians event, because I highlighted how the school itself is pretty much like an armed prison. Granted, I'm sure inside it's amazing. But on the outside, you're not getting into that school without the right credentials.
Yeah.
You're not getting to their functions without the right credentials. So I already know the only people that are going to be here are going to be kids of a certain social strata. My client is going to be safe. We don't need to carry that much security. Also, because they're kids of a certain strata, they probably have decent enough social media followings. They are engaged with social media. They live an aspirational lifestyle that other kids follow. So this is going to spread like wildfire, which it has because we are men in our 30s talking about the situation. So it worked. And it's easier to work with someone, as you said, who comes from royalty, who comes from wealth, because not only is it good on a PR front, it might also be good on a business front. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you guys, both your points. The majority of the public don't have this context. And for the majority of people, global superstar Tyler came to a school kid's matric dance to just because he had been asking for it. Also, from a social level of who was asking for who, it wasn't Tyler who was putting out videos saying, "Oh, please, can I come to this royal dance?" It was this kid who was repeatedly saying, "Yo, Tyler, please be my date. Tyler, please be my date. Tyler, please be my date." While I agree with you, if it was a regular kid, it might have been less likely that the team would have been like, yeah, you can go. But I still do think it's a feel-good story. And the reason I raised this story is because of that point, like I was seeing different reactions. Some people saying, "Wow, this is amazing. This is so cool." And other people saying, "This is a bit embarrassing. Why should you be like begging so much for attention from a woman?" Da, da, da. And the reason
Were these men incels?
No, I mean, I'm talking about the different range of responses I've seen. And I thought it was an interesting discussion because I think the more I think about it, the more I regret in my life the idea or the thought process that, you got to be nonchalant. You don't have to look too thirsty. You know what I mean? You gotta be cool, calm, and collected. Don't look like you're that interested. And I disagree. Like, what is wrong with right from the outset? I like you. Let me tell you guys how I moved on my wife, my now wife.
Come on.
initially it was so she was a friend of a friend, right? And through connections, I found her on Instagram, followed her. I just followed her, and then I asked this friend. I was like, "Yo, tell me about this girl." And the friend was like, "Oh no, she's dope people." Actually, hold on, let me find out if she's single for you. And I was like, "Wait, no, don't do that." And then by then it was too late. She was already calling her friend, saying, "Wait, just check for me if she's single." Oh yeah, she's single. You should hit her up. So by the time I DM'd her, she was like, "Are you the one who's busy asking my friends about?" So then I leaned into, instead of saying, "Nah, I'm cool," I leaned into it. I was like, "Yeah, I saw you and I was interested and I want to find out a little bit more about you." And then she was like, "Oh, okay." So then we started talking. And then I said, "Listen, I want to be honest with you. I'm not looking for friends. I've got friends. I think you and me can go together." You know what I'm saying? And then so later on, now she told me, "You know what? Something that really intrigued me about you. Everyone else who was trying to like holler or hit me up or whatever, they would be like very, yeah, what's up, shawty? Nah, you know." But you were like very direct. You were very like, "I'm interested and I want to see if this can go somewhere." And that was intriguing. And I think that's a strong way of approaching things. Like, be chalant. Be forward and say, "Yes, I want this person to be my date." Not like, "Yeah, I mean, whatevs," you know what I'm saying? No, like, be chalant. I know that's not a real word, but you know what I'm saying.
You know, just adding on to that being Shalanta, I literally just typed into ChatGPT, what are the benefits of being audacious, and tell me in bullet form. And it says, one, it breaks barriers. And here we are, this kid has broken the barrier of thinking that somebody's way too high to be within reach. She is within reach. And I think Barack Obama did exactly the same thing. He was fighting to try and be the first black president of the United States of America, which would have been breaking a barrier. He was audacious about it. He broke a barrier. Number two, it says it inspires others. I mean, how many other kids are going to be inspired to do something like this? I think there's going to be a lot, but there's also going to be a lot of little heartbroken kids.
But that's a catch-22 now, because
Is that a good thing?
I'm not
because
sure.
now Tyler is going to be flooded with matric and prom and leavers dance requests, and they were like, "Oh man."
And then number three, it builds confidence, creates impact, promotes innovation, blah, 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 encourages risk-taking. But Dan, sorry to bring you back just a little bit. So I know you're talking about how this kid has been campaigning for a good year. So royalty campaigns for a year. Obviously, Tyler's team has been listening for a year. The little kid goes and then he prints out a life-size, but what do they call them? Those board
Like
things?
a cutout.
Cardboard
Remember,
cutout.
life-size cutout of Tyler. And doesn't bother asking anybody else. This kid knew Tyler was coming.
that might be true, but the
Have you
video.
looked at the video?
I saw that.
If you looked at the video,
I saw the video of the cutout.
Did that kid at any point look starstruck at all?
See, that's
Man had signed an NDA. They had signed a disclaimer.
The little nigga did not look starstruck at all.
Dude had a whole briefing meeting with the management.
right? Yeah, they had a background
And
check.
two,
They were like, "You make sure your hands stay where we can see them at all times, buddy."
correct. In fact, when Phil, when you're looking at hands, whose hands are on who? Tyler's hands are the one that are on the kid. Listen, Tyler has been done a huge favor by this Molwane little kid. Hands up to the little nigga. Honestly, I'm so proud of him for pulling this stunt.
But you know, they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah. I hear
true.
you. I hear y'all. And these conspiracy theories might actually not be conspiracy theories. They might actually be what happened. But you guys are haters because this kid pulled a global superstar to be his date. Shout out to him. If it was my days, I would have been rocking up with, I don't know, Christina Milian or something. So even if all that was true, just imagine. Oh yeah, that's the dude who had Christina Milian as his date at the Livas party.
Eish.
Anyway, all right, let's move on to the next story. I'm gonna mention one other story, and then we can.
Okay.
So we don't spend too
Cool.
long here. It is quite late. So
Okay.
I'm gonna mix two stories in this one.
Okay.
Phil, I know you haven't been online, so maybe the story missed you, and it's very awkward to talk about because I know the people. But this is what was trending on Twitter. There's a young lady who was fed up with her baby daddy, so she decided, I can't take this anymore. So she tagged him on her Twitter post and said, "You're a terrible father to our child."
Ooh.
Wait, there's someone we know.
Yes, it's someone we know.
Wait, mouth the initial. Right,
No, I'll send it to you via message, so you see.
I think I might know who it is.
Then she puts out, and then she's like, "Guys, please
did you
help me.
text me?
I've been trying to get his attention, and he's ignoring me." Da 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 da. To which she subsequently deleted. But she's also a pretty public figure, and also, shall we say, a child of the system. I've put it in the group so you guys can both see. And let's just not. Again, remember, this is someone that we know personally.
This does not surprise. Hey, but also okay. Pardon my layers. Because I don't. Hey, I can't even expound further. You know.
So look, I don't want to talk about her situation specifically. I imagine. I don't even know her story. I don't know the background. But I imagine for anyone who's co-parenting with someone who they consider to be a deadbeat or is not pulling their weight or whatever, I don't know, whatever the situation is, it must be super frustrating, right? I'm going to tie this in with the story of Halle Bailey and DDG. So DDG, we spoke briefly about it in the previous episode, but DDG as a streamer, Halle Bailey, obviously superstar, singer, part of Chloe and Halle, and also actress who's like making a big name for herself in some of the big movies and stuff. Anyway, they have a kid together. They recently broke up. And now there's conversations about restraining orders versus visitation versus, who's going to be looking after the kid, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to mix these two stories. And I'm not going to pay too much specific attention because, like I said, we know these people involved, and I don't want to I don't want to disappear. But if I've seen it happen a couple of times, baby mama gets frustrated with deadbeat baby dad, and she's trying to ask the public to come on her side. My personal opinion is that the internet is not your friend. The internet are there to make jokes. They are there to clown you. They are there to make memes. You will always lose when you put your private business out on the internet. I feel the same way. This is a parallel story, but I feel the same way about people who get caught, who like catch their partner cheating, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to take a video of you, and I'm going to embarrass you and post it online." In my opinion, you're embarrassing also yourself. And the internet is not there to be your homie or your supporter or your friend. You're both going to be clowned. You've done something irreversible. I want to hear your thoughts about, I'm so frustrated. I'm trying to reach out to this man. We're supposed to be raising a child together, and I'm not getting response from him. I've done everything. I'm at my wit's end. Maybe if I embarrass him on the internet, he'll finally listen to me. What do you think?
I wouldn't have done this 3 or so years ago, but then I'm starting to see Jesus and the importance of Jesus in my life. Let me start that as the disclaimer, right? I'm going to give you a little bit of scripture. I'm looking at Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 and 16, and it says, if your brother sins against you, in this instance, the brother is sinning against the woman with the child, go and tell him first, and between you and him alone,
Hold up. Sorry, Tinto. I don't want to. Let me make sure we do this properly. Hold on.
You're opening the scripture.
You're opening scripture. I like this.
No. I'm giving a proper backtrack so that.
Remember, we can't properly hear your backtracks. But anyway.
Oh, you guys can't hear this? Oh, damn it!
No,
the church organ's going. The church organ's going crazy over here.
All right, go again, Tinto. Let's hear.
Right.
You said which verse is it? I want to open it. Matthew.
So it's Matthew chapter 18, verses 15, and I'm reading verses 15 to 17 because you're not of the idea that if you're having beef like this, go out to the public, go to the internet, because the internet is not your friend. And they will drag you. They're dragging everyone.
I will die on this hill. The internet is not your friend. But
right.
Let's hear.
I'm on the other side, right?
Let's hear.
I'm not going to down that hill. In fact, I think this is one of the best ways to actually do it. And I want to support it with the Bible, right? And the Bible's so Chapter 18, verses 15. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. And so far, this woman has been telling this brother alone that, hey man, bro, you're messing up. I want you to sort out your involvement in this child's life. That verse 15 goes and says, if he listens to you, you have gained a brother. So if he listened to what she was saying, well, brother, in this context, you've gained confidence in your man, in the child of your father. Look, it's happy-go-lucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's a win-win. So she's ticked box number 1. Verse 16, but if he does not listen, take 1 or 2 along with you, and with that very charge, you can establish the evidence and support of 2 or 3 witnesses. We are the witnesses that she is engaging, except that back in the day would have been doing this with horses and chariots and doves
Tinto.
and whatever letters they carry.
I'm with you 100%. I'm trying to let me contextualize it here. It's 3 men here discussing this kind of situation. Let me contextualize it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to reach out to my baby moms, and I'm trying to make this thing work. I'm trying to look. We're co-parenting. Our relationship didn't work out, but we have a kid together. We got to make this work. I'm reaching out to my baby moms, and she is not responding. She is being difficult. In my head, I'm like, listen, this is not about you and me. You and me can hate each other as much as we want, but it's about the child that we have. And she is just not cooperative. You know what? Let me hit up your mom or your sister. Let me hit up my aunt. We are now coming to you to have a conversation about 100% on board. I'm there. Let's do it, because maybe you don't want to listen to me because I did you wrong or whatever the case is. I understand. You're going to listen to your family. You're going to listen to my family. You're going to listen to other people. I can keep quiet. The internet is not taking 2 or 3. No.
Okay, those are numbers. But if you look at it in and I'm just going to tie it back to the episode that I did with you guys, a week ago, where you said you need to zoom out and look at things from 1,000 yards. So have a really, really big picture. The really big picture about the support that you can potentially get from this angle is the internet.
What support will you get? What support are you going to get? Okay,
I don't know.
Okay, no, let's do what you're saying. Let's play out the situation. Okay, let's play it out.
I think we're missing a point here. And in as much as sometimes people need a place to vent, right? And I can totally understand that. If you have made the calculus, if you've with a sober mind and heart have made the calculus that, I don't care if people are in my business. My business may already be out there to a certain degree. I just want to embarrass this man and put it on the public record that this man is not doing his job. Fair and fine. If you've done that calculus and maybe you're like, my last resort is shaming him into stepping up to being a father. It is what it is. But on the flip side, you have to remember, everything on the internet lasts forever. One day that child is going to get told, fam, your mother was whiling on your dad online. Just a heads up. Here's the tweet. Even if you delete it, it'll be there.
Not just that, Phil. Not just that. You I completely understand in the moment crashing out because of frustration or anger or emotion. But like Phil said, things on the internet live forever.
Stay forever. Yeah.
Now, your child will see it. Potential people that you interact, potential business partners, potential clients, potential whatever the case is, will see this. And they will form their own opinions, right or wrong. Could be correct, could be wrong, whatever the case is.
But that's not a problem, Dan. That is genuinely not a problem. So if you're a man and you should be handling business, why are you allowing it to go there in the first place?
And my thing would be like, you're totally. We're not saying who's right or who's wrong.
This is not. I'm not defending the man as if he's right.
It's about tactics, and I would say the tactic here should be: there's a court system designed for this. The court system may not be perfect, but Twitter is not going to get this person to step up. What will get this man to step up is a judge, whether begrudgingly or not. A judge will get this person to step up.
Okay, so you're talking about a judge. Verse 16 is talking about getting 2 or 3 people with you so that they can provide evidence. A judge only delivers a ruling based on solid evidence.
No, but
the work
no,
that she is
Tinto.
doing is collating evidence. I think what the issue here is the extent to which you are engaging others for your evidence.
No, you're not. In this case, you're not going to court to try and get someone in jail or anything like that. What you're trying to do is, we have a child together. The judge.
I want money.
Yeah, the judge will simply say, you guys have a child
even-
together.
I don't.
Ningy,
Okay,
done.
let's broaden this. Let's pull this away from this. Let's just make it a general.
I'm
discussion.
speaking very broadly. I wasn't even
Yeah,
speaking about
let
this
me
one
speak,
person.
let me speak
Yeah.
very broadly.
Yeah,
In this
yeah.
instance, it may not necessarily be money. It just be like, yo, this child asks about their father. Any child would do that. Any child was like, where's dad? Right? And you don't want to be that type of, even if it's a situation where you're like, yo, it's fine. I can look after the kid. I have a support network. I have a village. I have a family. The child will be looked after. But at the end of the day, the child may just say, yo, where is dad? And that's the unfair thing to as men, we need to address in our friend groups and so forth. It's like, you should be there for your child. Even if you can't support the child. Like, maybe it was unplanned, whatever. And you're like, guys, I don't have two cents to rub together.
You know, for me personally, I think there's everything wrong with just that comment to say that if you can't support the child.
Yeah.
No,
I don't
circumstantial.
think there should ever be a situation that someone cannot support. I think you can. It may not be financial.
But yeah, we're saying the same thing but differently. I'm saying when I say support, I mean just that. Like, if you don't have the finances, that's one thing. You may not be able to control that, right? But what you can control is the amount of time and effort. You may not have 2 cents to rub together. Saga, Blaz, put on your best walking shoes, walk to wherever that child is, spend some time with your kid,
and do better.
And as a man, I think if the tone of, if we see someone going online and saying, yo, this man, every time he comes to see his child, he doesn't bring anything, this and the third, the conversation changes. It was like, okay, but he's coming to see the child. And
Yeah,
he's
correct. That's
he's
right.
a present
Yeah.
father.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
trying to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can at least say, "Sha guys, and Rueds and Trash and Shagaipa, Zimbabwe, Mawan, wherever you are in the world." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I'm trying to show up. But ultimately, my whole thing is, in the instances we've discussed, if it's now reached a point where you're trying to contact this individual, maybe you've contacted the family, you've contacted his mother, whatever it may be, and they get no response. The courts exist for a reason. If you've now gone to court and the courts have been like, fam, you don't have a case because of A, B, C, D, E, and then as your final resort, you go to social media, that's one thing. And we don't know that. That's the other thing. It's not like the discussion is not in the public domain. We don't even know what the legal proceedings look like. You know what I mean?
So can I add just a touch more color to that? And then I'll leave this verse alone. Dan, allow me. So, step number 1, talk between yourselves. If you can't bring 2 or 3 other people, verse 17, if he refuses to listen to them, which is the 2 or the 3, tell it to the church. How big is a church?
Church is very simple.
How big is a church?
It's not the internet, is what I
Okay,
would say.
I'll give you an example, right? I used to be Seventh-day Adventist, right? And then I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, how many congregants make up the SDA church? Yeah? Worldwide. Let me see what the web says. Give me 1 sec.
No.
Right. Membership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is approximately 23,600 million baptized individuals.
Wait, Tinto. Wait.
And this verse is saying, tell the church. How many people on Twitter have seen this? I don't know if it's 23 million.
Let's have context.
Yeah.
When it says tell the church, does it mean it should be announced from the pulpit? Or it must be announced from the platform? What do you think is the context when it says tell the church? In my translation, it says tell the congregation. How do you think it would? How would you tell the congregation or tell the church?
For me, a congregation is an amalgamation of individuals that share the same faith.
That is the definition of a congregation, yes. But
Right.
when someone says, for example, when someone says, "I want to tell the world that I'm in a happy relationship," does that mean you must tell every single person in the world? Of course not. There's an understanding that there's a phrase that's meant to mean something. For me, let me tell you how I interpret this.
Yeah.
When it says take it to the church or tell the church, it means now you're taking this person and going to the elders or the pastors or the leaders or the people who are assigned to help deal with stuff and so on. Because read what it says. If you fail with the church, what's the next step?
then consider that person to be a Gentile or a tax collector. They're basically saying treat them like they are the bad people that the biblical times viewed Gentiles and tax collectors to be.
So let's focus on the word Gentile. So it implies that there's a separation between church and Gentile. That means tell the church, if it still fails, that person is now a Gentile. Implying that tell the church doesn't mean tell everyone. It means because everyone is now considered that person to be part of everyone. Right? So to me, it means go take it to the specific people in the church or in the congregation who are charged with dealing with this situation. That's what that means to me. So I don't think if we're going to use scripture, still, to me, it says, go speak to the person, go with 2 or 3 people. If that doesn't work, go tell the people in the church, the congregation, the leaders, whoever it is, the pastors, the counselors, whatever it is in your setup that applies to this. Secondly, just to clear up, like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, we're talking about people that we know. So these conversations, by the way, I want to keep it very general. I'm not speaking about this person's specific situation because obviously we don't know the details. I don't know.
Why did you bring up this talk? You're gonna make it very open.
Phil, it's our job to talk about things that are trending. To me, I'm not talking about this specific situation, but this specific situation coming up makes me think of the general. So in my opinion, again, I don't know her specific situation, but in general, I would say I don't think it's a good idea to bring it to the internet. I would think that she agrees with me because she then went on to delete the post. So even if you were to search for it, it's not there.
Right.
But then that makes me think from a general perspective, is it a good idea to bring this kind of thing, these private, and I understand the frustration because you'll be frustrated. I'm trying to get this sorted, but it's just not, maybe if I put it on the internet, it will embarrass the person enough to make them address it. Right?
I think, and this is just basing on my line of work, which is dealing with relationships and people making both smart and stupid decisions at the same time.
Yeah.
On the episode we recorded, Phil clearly said that he likes to touch a stove. He likes to get burnt. Right? But now he knows that if I do something, it can really lead into some problem because he's had the experience of doing that. And I think it's important to say that unless you've been in a situation where you've learned something of value, you will do things that are unreasonable in quotes. But you are not equipped otherwise to deal with it. That's my only takeaway from it. So even if you broaden the situation out, people who do not put their kids on the internet and the situation on the internet have been burnt, and they know that there is no value that they derive from doing this. So this, I think, is an unnecessary evil. I personally support doing that in the first instance because you're not equipped and you don't have the right knowledge to do better. And then post dealing with the backlash and everything that comes with that, you're now in a better position. You're a more mature adult. You can make better informed choices. We all need to get burnt every now and again.
True.
Guys. Listen to Tinto's podcast. Listen to Pheeling Station. Learn from other people getting burnt so you don't repeat the same issue yourself.
But also, I will say, it's also a privilege. Is that the word? We speak from a position of privilege because we're not in it.
Yeah.
Like how many times, especially like in this reflective space I'm in, like how many times have we been on the outside looking and saying, but why would that person do that?
Yeah.
And then you might find yourself in some situation like, oh, you know what? I was speaking from a position where I don't know. So it's like, I don't know if you watch Tinto, if you watch Formula 1, right?
No, my BFF was asking me about it yesterday. Apparently they're doing a circuit in Austria.
Yes.
So and it was hectic within the first 3 laps. So short answer, no. I don't watch it.
So 2 weeks ago, I think it was in Portugal, Lando Norris and his teammate Oscar Piastri, they're racing for the win. No, they're racing for the win. They're racing for position. And internally, they're trying to get the lead on the championship. Out of nowhere, Lando Norris just drives into the back of his teammate, crashes out of the race. As an observer, we're like, what a stupid decision. Like, why would you do that? And sometimes we forget, these are literally 20 of the best drivers in the world. These people have incredible levels of concentration, physical strength, endurance, technical capabilities. There's no way any of us watching, even if you're number one on your online Formula 1 gaming thing, can hold a candle to their driving skill. But we can look at a mistake and easily point out that's a mistake, right? because
Yeah.
we're not in the car with them. And I think it's the same here. Sometimes people react because humans react in certain ways. They react emotionally. They might make a bad decision or whatever. And when the cold light of day hits, they're like, you know what? That wasn't the best move. You know what? Let me correct course. And I've now learned to try and give people a little more grace, because in as much as it's easy for you to point out and say, whatever you're doing is a mistake, it's easy to point that out when you're not dealing with the emotional ramifications of it. You're not dealing with the day to day. You're not.
That's
in it.
right. That's right.
You're on the outside looking in.
That's right.
Phil, as much
For
as
me, for me, that's the extension of grace to situations like this on a broad perspective. Somewhat can be given, because now, depending on delivery to the child, the question could be, why did you put me on blast? Why did you put my dad on blast? If I was to be the person involved in a situation similar to this, it was because I was campaigning for support for you, and this is the way that I knew best. But now that I've gone through that experience and I experienced the backlash that I did, I'm sorry it happened this way. But all I was trying to do was do what I could, given the knowledge that I had and the skills that I had at the time, to do what was best.
okay, the other thing I want to add as well is we have a lot of smoke for the reaction or the response, but we don't have a lot of smoke for someone who's not taking after their kids. Now, again, I'm not talking about the specific situation because I don't know the details, but in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
I think we should shame deadbeat fathers more than we do.
I agree.
I feel like
I agree with you 10,000%.
I think that it should be one of those things where, whether it's in the friend groups, in the group chat, or when you're talking, you're like, you're not looking after your kid, or you're not, like, it should be one of those, like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, as a man, that should be something that's the top of your, in general. I get it. Sometimes baby mamas are very difficult to deal with, and I hear all these stories. I understand that, but that's your kid. That's your progeny. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that person should not in any way ever grow up thinking that I don't have a dad or I don't have someone taking care of me. We should be shaming
Do you
people
remember-
for that.
Did you remember as a kid doing something and the parents saying, "Urkita say," and then you get a whipping?
That's why we must be
It
whipping.
will be instant. This is the equivalent of that. Whip it through the internet.
No, but I firmly believe, don't take your private business to the internet. The internet is not your friend. People will make
true.
clowns, jokes, memes, whatever. That's what they care about. They just care about entertaining and laughing. Your friends who do care about you, maybe take it to the group chat or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah. Okay. I want to mention a couple of quick stories. So something happened to me this week that I mentally made a note that I want to bring it up on the podcast. And I'm glad that Tinto is here because it also fits in with you. So I was having a conversation with my wife. So she was telling me stories about her workplace and things that happen at work and whatever. And then she told me one particular story that I found interesting. So she was at a work event. At this work event, people were bringing their spouses. So she speaks to one of her female colleagues, and that female colleague introduces her husband. Says, "Oh yeah, this is my husband, Ningi." And then my wife says he literally stuttered. He couldn't speak. And it was like a little bit awkward, like, what's going on?
Okay.
And then she makes eye contact with this female colleague, and the female colleague is kind of like apologetic, and it's kind of like, is what it is. So she was now, what was this weird situation?
What?
So she's like playing it out in her head and whatever. And then the conclusion that she came to is maybe he found himself attracted to me. And because he's maybe not socially, confident or whatever, he just couldn't express himself or speak about it. When I heard this, I was like, no, I'm sorry. So you're saying this man was with his wife. He met his wife's workmate, and then he thought she was attractive, and then he couldn't speak, and then now it ended up in this awkward, embarrassing moment. And then she's like, "No, I mean, like, maybe that happens, right? Because we assume that you work." She says, "You work in media, so probably the people you interact with are very confident and they're very easy to speak. Like they speak well." She works in IT, and she's like, "Maybe some of the people are less, they're not so." They're not so confident. Some they get easily flustered. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I can't see it there. You got to stand on your 2 feet. You can't be with your wife and then meet someone else and be like,
You know, there's a song by Natty O that it goes and you pay the power. Nonsense. The guy got better power.
I know. I'm sorry. I can't. Even if you are, let's just say you do find. I mean, just because you're married, it doesn't mean you won't be attracted to someone else, right? So let's say you're there with your wife and you meet your wife's workmate and she's a stunner.
Mm.
I mean, are you gonna like? No, you got to stand on your 2 feet, man.
Okay, but if we continue this assumption, there's also a myriad of other reasons. But
It's true.
Let's just go with this assumption.
So it's true. There's a myriad. I'm not really interested in the actual story. I'm interested in the theory, which is I thought maybe this is what maybe he found him like he was there and he was like, oh, I find her attractive, and then now you can't speak. To a certain extent, I want to trust a woman's intuition on this because they obviously deal with a lot of men who are attracted to them and stuff like that. So maybe this is the situation. But even if that wasn't the situation, that theory intrigues me because how can it be possible that you meet someone, you're with your wife, and you meet someone, and you're like, no. As a man.
Then I think if we are going with that assumption, I think that's not a stretch. We've seen men who lack discernment. There are men that treat marriage like a pistol. So just yesterday, I bumped into someone and we're having a conversation. And she was telling, so we had a question like, have you ever experienced heartbreak? And she was like, yeah. I was dating a guy. He got married. I saw he got married on social media. And I'm phoning him. He's not picking up. And then the next day when he finally responded, he was like, yeah, don't worry. It's just a small roadblock in our relationship. It's just a small speed bump. But I'm coming back on Monday. We'll talk about it. That's how some men view marriage.
Coming back from where, Phil? From honeymoon?
Yeah, once I'm done here, we can... This small marriage doesn't have to break up our relationship. Some men operate like that.
I hear you. Yeah. No, but how does that affect you being flabbergasted that you can't even speak because you met someone who you think is attractive? No. Okay, here's the thing. So I've told a story on this podcast before, just as a brief recap. I tell a story of how I bumped into Boiti when I was not expecting to. And, I used to make very public jokes about that's my celebrity crush, ha 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 ha. And then when I bumped into her, I was literally I was speaking to someone that, the reason I'm here is because I want to meet Boiti. And then she's like, oh, you mean her? And then someone turns around and then, dear Boiti Wacho. And then I'm like, oh, I mean, I tell the story to be facetious, but in reality, what happened was I was like, oh, hello. Okay, cool. And that's it. You're telling me you can't even have enough composure to just say hello and then you keep it moving, even if inside you're attracted to the person. Because you're there with your wife. I can
see the flip side. If you meet someone so stunningly gorgeous, you can lose composure. That happened to me the first time I met Mini Lamini. Like, I would like to think I am not one who's easily flustered, but when I first met her, I was like,
no, Phil, you're telling me if you were there with your girl, and then you meet Mini Lamini, and then you're like,
I don't know.
I know.
But also, I've changed. This was, when I met her, this was over 10 years ago. I do remember there was one time.
No.
There was one time I was traveling, we were in the airport, and I was with the person I was dating with at the time. And there was 10 out of 10, like, stunning, cover girl, gorgeous woman. And we locked eyes. I locked eyes with this cover girl, gorgeous woman, like we're in the duty-free shop. And I forgot to stop looking at this person. But my girlfriend is right beside me. And I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to cheat or whatever. But stunning cover girl person is looking at me. I'm looking at her. And I'm just like, like, dagastic. Sometimes it happens. Dagastic at that day.
I refuse. Do
you know what? I think I'm just grateful to God I've not been in a situation where I've been like that. Only because I think I'm a small fish. You guys are big guys. Do you know what I mean? So you get to mix and mingle with the likes of Anamini Lamini and Anna Boiti, right? So there's that opportunity. You need my I don't even know if it's a celebrity crush or anything, but for the longest of time, I had something for Miss Becky.
Really?
You know? And you needed, yeah, man. Miss Becky.
That's the homie. That's so funny.
So I think if
Should we
she
phone
was
her?
to
Let's
tell,
phone her. Let's phone
Shall
her.
we
Let's
phone?
phone her.
Let's phone her on the podcast. No,
Let's phone-
she's,
let's
she's
phone her.
married.
don't do
She's
that.
married,
don't do
Philip.
that.
You can't be
Guys, listen. When I was giving an example of being dumbfounded, I wasn't exactly prepared to do it on the spot. Let's leave it alone. Let's leave it alone.
So are you saying, Tinto, if you were to bump into her and she's like all dressed up, looking gorgeous, you might find yourself dumbfounded if you're with your person?
100%.
You guys, I refuse.
100%.
I refuse.
There is that possibility.
So I can't believe this. Because even my wife was saying, like, no, you got to understand, like, some people, it's not like you can help it. It's just you meet someone and you're dumbfounded.
And I've also been on the reverse side of it.
Hey, Philip.
But what do you mean on the reverse side of it?
And I was even Daniel even there. Remember when Omale?
Yeah.
When Omale came to Zoom, and we had the talk about the Omale, and I was like, don't do what that other person.
No, okay, but there's a little bit of a difference.
Now we're standing by Omale's car for 15 minutes waiting for Omale. I'm like, this is
No,
ridiculous.
okay, Phil.
This is ridiculous.
There's a difference between standing a celebrity. I like your music. I've loved your videos. I'm a fan of you. That's different to meeting someone and being so flabbergasted at their attractiveness that you can't speak, yet you're standing with your significant other. Like, get on, even if it is that bad that you can't really compose yourself well, hello and move on is good enough. Then you can hopefully even tell your person afterwards, no, you know what, I was.
I get you, but I also feel like we're now spending a lot of time on hypotheticals when we've been inundated with so many questions.
Yes. Wait, before we get to those questions, I want Tinto to tell us. Tinto, you have a few minutes, my brother. This is a safe space.
Do you know what? Just before that, I was really dying to do this. Hang on a second. I'm going to try and see if I can send this to our group chat.
Yeah.
And just talk about a dimension at play that maybe we're ignoring about being dumbfounded as men.
Yeah.
I think by nature, no man wants to be startled. Imagine the lion in the jungle getting startled by a tiny antelope or a small deer. It's a bit embarrassing. So it doesn't know what to do. It's been startled.
Yeah.
Can you see the picture I've just put in the group?
What are we seeing here?
I'm very confused. What is this?
That is Khalees.
Okay.
So I was traveling to Zanzibar, got to Jomo Kenyatta Airport, and then boom, there was Khalees when she was doing the whole tour of her showing that she's buying a farm in Kenya. So I saw her.
Neocolonialism at its finest.
So yes, I was startled, and she is drop dead gorgeous. She's a hot woman.
Do you feel like you were brought to the bar?
Do I feel like what?
You were brought to the bar? Were you one of the boys that was brought to the bar? Okay.
Of course I was.
That was poor then.
Of course I was. So I saw her and I walked up to her and I was like, I'm sorry, but you really look like Khalees. Khalees. And then she was torn between being honest and dishonest. And she said, oh yeah, I hear it all the time that I have an uncanny resemblance to Khalees. And then I turned around and walked away. But then I walked back and said, nah, you're Khalees. Then she said, yes, I am. And she gave me a hug. She wouldn't do pictures because she felt she had been traveling. She didn't look her best.
Yeah.
And then she told me a story. She was flying somewhere. We ended up being on the same plane to Zanzibar. Landed in Zanzibar. Our two cars were parked right next to each other. I eventually got a picture with her. In that situation, if she had stood in front of me before I saw her, I would have been startled and I would have been speechless. Because I'd have been like, But because I saw her first, I had enough time to make my balls titanium to walk up to her and say that, yeah, I'm going to talk to you.
Gave some people, come on, Tinto.
So the point that I'm getting with this whole thing.
You're the man, Tinto. Who's the man? You're the man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So the point I'm getting at with this, I think I get the guy being startled because he didn't expect to be hit with whatever he was hit with. But if he had clocked from before, hey, this Adam is dope. It would have been a different yeah. Bottom line is, Varume, always be ready.
I would be so. Listen, I really want to hear from the listeners. Can you understand if your significant other is startled by the attractiveness of someone else to the extent that you can't speak? I would love to hear. Am I the only one who feels that that's not valid? It seems I'm the only one.
The thing is, Dan, you are so on the other side because it hasn't happened to you yet. One day, you'll happened, and then you'll be because actually, you know what? Actually, you're a liar. You were like that with Boosie.
No.
Yes, Dan,
no ways.
And then the
Tinto-
truth comes
No
out.
way.
you were like that.
Then the
I
truth comes
refuse.
out with Twimbos.
I remember it. I actually remember it.
You were more
You.
sparked by Boosie than I was.
No, I was sparked by Boosie because it was an ongoing joke that she was my wife. So I used to joke online that, Boosie's my wife. Granted, in retrospect, maybe a little bit problematic, but she took it in good fun. And I think her team had seen the tweets because I don't think she ran her social media. And I know at that time, the person who was managing her also managed Questa. Was Questa's road manager, and there was also Kulichana's manager, who I have a relationship with, Refilwe. So Refilwe also knew, okay, Phil, I get it. Like, I saw the tweets, they're funny, cool, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like an antagonistic thing. It was just more so like, I did have a crush on her. But when I met her, it wasn't like I was starstruck. Dan, however, was starstruck.
You guys. All right. Tinto, I'm sending you a photo of us meeting Boosie. You tell me who looks starstruck in this photo.
All right,
Dan
cool.
or Phil, you tell me.
The fact that you was able to find that photo so quickly proves my point. Dan,
my nigga.
Dan,
Danny.
Dan. Also, Tinto, this is not even the photo. We had been with Boosie for like 5 hours at this point because we had been chilling with her at the pool at the hotel for like the whole afternoon. Then we all went. She went up to change. We went home to shower. This was in the evening now, so we had been chilling with her. But when we first met at the radio station, Dan was like,
In case you're wondering who that is, it's that the girl who sang "You're So Easy to Love."
Listen, I love her music. I wish she was still doing more of it now. I don't hear enough of her anymore.
yeah, she's happily married now. She was like, I'm
You know.
Drago
Yeah,
Phil, I
but-
was not
but yeah.
starstruck by Boosie, but anyway.
Anyway. But Boosie, she's the one who sang "Get Over It," right?
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Get over
Yeah,
it.
get over it. Yeah, she. It's sad to say, Danny. That smile that you have, this says a lot.
No, let me find this. There's a photo from that day where Dan is ogling over at the foot, and I even took it and I laughed. Let me try. I don't remember
Absolutely brilliant.
What year was that?
Brilliant.
Well, anyway, I'll find that photo. I've actually got photographic evidence of it, but I also remember I was there.
Anyway, while Phil looks for this evidence, let's move on.
Yeah.
Tinto, please. I always thought that the day we get you on our podcast will be the day I ask you, give us a little. I understand it's the same kind of situation we had on your podcast where there's not really anonymity.
Yeah, anonymity. Yeah.
But what can you tell us about this girl that broke your heart and made you start a breakup podcast?
So okay. Okay, so for starters, it wasn't her who got me to start the breakup podcast. That the podcast actually started because a friend of mine, and I always shout her out, Ruvimbo out in Canada, shared a story about how she was in a 3-year emotionally abusive relationship, and she was absolutely clueless. And I bumped into the story by pure accident. A friend of mine from Zambia called Brenda sent it to me, and she's like, "Look at what you Zimbabweans are doing." So when I saw how well she told the story on Facebook Live, I was like, "Hey man, do you mind if I adopt this concept as a podcast?" And she's like, "Yeah, cool." And that's how the Pheeling Station was born. However, I've had my fair share of fairly difficult relationships, and what makes it particularly difficult is that they've all been long term. I look back and I think maybe my shortest relationship was about 3 months, and that was just as I finished my A-levels. So A-levels, got into a relationship with someone in October, and we left school by the end of November, December. And I lived in Bulawayo, she lived in Harare. There was no point in continuing, so he died. That was by far my shortest. Otherwise, the average is about 3 years. In fact, the minimum
Oh my goodness.
is about 3 years. So speaking specifically about which particular breakup cut the most is very difficult for me, which is why you always get bits and pieces whenever I talk about episodes. In fact, there's 2 reasons why you won't actually get a full story of what happened on this episode. One is that each one of the breakups got progressively worse. So that the breakup from around 2007 was bad because I came from a bubble. When I was now a bit more clued up about the world, around 2010, 2013, thereabouts, another breakup happened, but that's because she hit me with another angle that I didn't see coming. Beyond that, I was tried with another angle that I didn't see coming. So
You're going through it, huh?
yeah, aish, bruh. Yeah. But over the, I would say 15-year period, I think the most valuable thing that I think I would happily share with you guys on this podcast, and I think it might just answer a lot of the questions that are going to come from the public. And the one lesson that I've learned across all three of the breakups, although they are all completely different in how they happened, one thing remains consistent, which is that you're not asking too much. I wasn't asking for too much. I was just asking the wrong person. And for me, that's where the biggest issue has come from. It's never about asking too much. It's just you're asking the wrong person for something that they have no capacity to give you. And then if I was the one who's messed up, there was a really good chance that they felt like they were asking too much of me, but I was just the wrong person. For instance, one of my exes expected me to be out 24/7. So, we get home on a Friday. It was always Friday to Sunday. Always consistently Friday to Sunday. We need to be out at the club. Friday we'll go to a place called Moonlight. Moon something, out in Woolwich. And everybody who's in Southeast London will be able to relate to that time. I was bored within 10, 15 minutes because I didn't drink for starters. So I could only have 2 Coca-Colas and I was done. So what she was asking of me was to be more present in the moment, more available and fun by consuming alcohol. But I was the wrong person. I was not consuming alcohol. With the second person, they were asking me to be more present within the church. But then I just lost my mom and I'd lost faith in what the church is about because we tried to pray as much as we could to keep her alive. During the time she was in a coma, she didn't come through, so I lost faith in the church. So she was asking me to be more present in the church. I was the wrong person. I didn't give a shit about God at that time. Because he just wasn't relating. The last individual that I was trying to keep things alive with, I was just basically saying, you need to see me for what I'm giving as valuable to us as a unit. But that, again, wasn't, quite what I got the impression was what she was after. So, again, I wasn't asking for too much, just asking the wrong person.
Bars.
So, yes, what messed up Tinto, it was the assumption that I was asking the right individual the right questions, but it was always the wrong individual with the wrong questions.
I hear you, man. Yes, King. Come through, King. Your requirements are valid, and it's okay to ask for them.
So that was part 1. Part 2 of you guys not catching the full guan that I keep dropping in dips and pieces is I've really found value in human connection. And human connection from my little few years of living on this planet is sharing bits and pieces of your vulnerability with someone who is going through a vulnerability journey. Because it gives them a crutch to lean on. It makes them feel heard. It makes them feel seen. So I will consistently give dips and, little bits and pieces of my experience because it helps that individual through that journey that they're sharing their story to feel like, oh, do you know what? Somebody can actually relate to a lot of this. So I think by the time we get to episode 1000, you guys will have the full picture. What has happened to this thing? So you guys stay tuned to TFS because, more of it and more of it keeps coming out.
All right. No, look, it's okay. I understand. We'll allow some level of privacy to continue, but I think valid points have been raised. And I also agree. We meet someone who we click with, and then we want them to be everything else that we want.
Yeah. Because
we click. Whereas in reality, maybe you should be looking for what you're looking for from someone else. But that having been said, I would also say that there's no relationship without some level of compromise.
True.
Some level. Like you need to learn what's too much and what's too little. But when you get in a relationship, you also understand that, these are some of the things my partner likes or cares about or are important to them. And they may not have been important to me, but I'll make them important to me for the sake of my partner and vice versa. But if you have to change who you are, then now it's a problem.
And that, I think, really marries into this little saying that you're not asking for too much, you're asking the wrong person, because the right person will understand the importance of compromise for the health of your relationship.
All right, since we're in the feeling station flavor of the podcast now, we asked some of our patrons. By the way, if you want to become a Two Broke Twimbos patron, it's twobroke.com/donate. And you can find the link there, or you can just search for Two Broke Twimbos on Patreon. If you become a patron, we add you to the WhatsApp group. We have great conversations in there. maybe Tinto will add you to our Patreon group one time just so you can interact with some of the people there who have said they're your fans. Imagine in a Patreon group for another podcast, they're telling us,
A2 Brute. A2 Brute.
no, I love the Pheeling Station. Oh, I can't wait to hear it. I was hurt to my heart, but anyway. So we asked them to send in some mini stories of their own breakups that we thought we'd share here, and then we can just have brief reactions to them. So
I think those want some help, want some advice.
Yeah.
These are not listen to react. This is
please help me.
help me, help. All right, let's go through. So this one is titled "Dating Divorcee." Hi, Dan and Phil, big fan of the show and writing to you from, I'm not going to mention the location, but it's somewhere in Canada. Let's put it that way. My name is C. Your podcast has honestly been a lifeline for me, especially over the last year. Here's the situation. I'm 31 and recently divorced. My ex-husband is Canadian, a great guy in many ways, but our cultural differences created a gap that just got too wide over time. I spent years feeling like a cultural ambassador in my own home, constantly explaining cultural differences. The issues began when it became clear he didn't actually want to listen or learn about me or what was important to me. Things came to a head when I would feel like his family was being racist or insensitive. He would always brush it off and say I was being paranoid. My last straw was when his mother said my daughter's hair was too bushy. I
Yikes.
explained that saying that about her granddaughter was a problem. Things escalated and he didn't defend me. It culminated in them saying he never should have married a black woman. I was so hurt and still he did not defend me. After that, I decided to leave him. I could not have my child raised around people who would give her the same identity issues I struggled with in Canada. I already have to deal with the drama of a divorce to my Zim parents and family who were also skeptical of me marrying a white man. Included with all this is the failed experiment of trying to find a black man or African man here who wants something serious with a divorced mother. At this point, I am even considering importing a man from Zim.
Yay.
My Zim friends have spoken about this a few times and I thought they were joking until I saw how many of them were actually doing this and they seem happy. I do not want to be a 40-year-old still in the streets. I also see how happy Dan and his wife are online and I really love it for them. I want that too for myself and my daughter. Dan, you see the social pressure you're putting people under?
Bruh. Man's taking trips to Bali with the missus and all that. My nigga. You're putting people under pressure, bro.
All right. So, Anzi, I would love any advice you have. Okay. Yeah, okay. Shall we take turns, gents? Let me be the last one since I was name dropped in this one.
Okay.
Or do you want me to go first? I'm happy to go first.
I'm still formulating. I'm still trying to figure
I can go first
Please
if you
go,
want, Dan,
Tinto.
because you want to have that last bit. For starters, one, getting divorced at 31, I think is a very positive thing for you to happen. In Canada, because what you've just done is experience what it was like with having fun within your 20s. Stuff has hit the fan at the beginning of your 30s, where you're now torn between your career and yourself as an individual. And by the time you hit 35, you're probably going to be more solid in your career, and you can determine whether you really want to have something serious with a man who's also now well established in their careers. I'm assuming between about 40 and 45. My little theory is I don't think any man should get married before 40. Because that's about the time that you know what the hell you're doing with yourself, what the hell you want, and your tolerance for both is between 0 and none. At least we hope that's what it should be. So kudos to you. See, a 31 divorced, that's a really great time because you got a lot of mileage to get yourself the right man over the next 10 years or so. That's number one. Number two, one of the things my mom always said, and she begged of me, when I came to the UK, I was playing the voice note about a month ago. She says, Tendai, please, ndapodo sandu tramurungu. And I was like, Mom, you can't really speak like that because the world is unified. Some people do accept cultural differences and they really blossom because they're genuinely curious about the individual. But she was speaking from a position of lack of exposure to what getting married to the white folk is like. Just yesterday, I attended a farewell party for a couple that is going over to Australia. White guy married to a black woman. doing exceptionally well and fantastic. For this not to be a reality, I can only apologize and say I'm sorry. Comments to be raised about how nappy that the hair is and that is too bushy is really beyond your reach. It's a question of exposure to what it must be like being with a black person. It's easy to take that personally, and I'm sorry for that if you have. And I hope you can walk away from it. However, the thing that I think is important to me in this thing is how you're recognizing that you still want to have the family unit. And it's okay to have the family unit. Push for it as much as you possibly can. And I really hope that this doesn't become a cliche within this conversation to say that you're not asking for too much, you're just asking the wrong person. You are asking the wrong person to see you for who you are. You're asking the wrong person to identify with what your culture is. You're asking the wrong person to assimilate into the culture and be more curious about what you want to give you what you need. And now you have the perfect opportunity to present yourself as an individual who is black, who is a mom, and being a mother, I think, is a fantastic thing because I have a child myself. I know what it's like to be a parent. And to be 31, I can't overemphasize how great a position that is be. You are 31. So you have a lot of room, a lot of mileage to get things right. So my only advice, in quotes, for this, celebrate being 31. Do not focus on trying to justify whatever questions you have to somebody if they're not receptive to them and they're noble and they're honest and they're truthful. The right person who recognizes that you're a black woman who wants the family unit to thrive, who wants a relationship to thrive, and who wants to have success in Canada is very, very close. Importing a man from Zimbabwe, good luck. I wouldn't be taking that as priority number one because I think a lot of people are trying to escape a lot of poverty-related issues. Prayer points are met whenever you actually move to the first world. I don't know if this is a thing that you guys have noticed out in Zim, but then people were coming on this certificate of sponsorship. I won't mention it by the abbreviation because it's got negative connotations to it. But a lot of goalposts shift. Either the man or the woman suddenly sees bright lights and their eyes are open up and they, things crack before they've even started. Importing a man, I would say chill. If there's a decent guy out there who you really, really, really vibe with and you're asking questions and they're receptive to it, give that a chance. That's my take.
A mature man.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tinto gives me vibes of a pastor. He speaks like a very vibrant youth pastor.
Nah, I don't mess with the church like that.
I know, but it's whatever they imparted when you were still in it. It stuck with you.
I've been burnt. That's what I can tell you. I know. I have a good sense of what it was like. I've been burnt.
So, okay.
Wait, John.
go
I've
ahead,
got some.
go ahead.
I was noting down. Granted, keep in mind. Let this be known that Two Broke Twimbos and the Pheeling Station are not authorized therapists or healthcare providers. Please take our information as suggestions, but always revert back to professionals where necessary. Now that we've got that, we're fully covered legally. We can be sued. It's a fact. So,
Brilliant.
I was gonna say, as much as I can somewhat sympathize with what's going on, I think you may be putting the cart before the horse. I think in this letter, the great thing you did was you put your daughter above everything else, right? And that is the way it should be. As a mother going forward, your first priority should be your child. So you should be trying to find ways to first and foremost raise your child. And I'm sure you're doing that already, but just to emphasize, raising your child first and foremost, and then finding a partner to help you raise the child and live the life you want. As three men, it's difficult for us to speak on it. I don't know if you want to have other kids. Maybe that's why you don't want to be in the streets. Maybe you're happy with the one child because you may be considering a biological clock and you're like, I've only got X amount of time to have kids with my next partner and build my family, etc., if that's what's going to be. But don't put a time limit on it. And also, as Tinto has said, importing a man seems like an extreme. I don't know. I genuinely don't know if this person was joking because they seem to have a bit of sense of humor and wit about them. But it can't be that serious, because if you're looking to date someone who understands your culture in Zimbabwe, fair and fine. But on the flip side, is that person willing to move to a country that experiences minus 40-degree snowstorms. You know what I mean? Is that something that's feasible? Are you willing to take on an extra dependent? Because if you are importing a man, you are also financing everything about it. And unless this man somehow is a qualified professional who just doesn't have opportunities to get work permits outside the country. So that's something else to consider. I would say if dating within your region is a problem, if you moved to wherever you are because of your husband, maybe consider moving to another place in the future if that doesn't affect your family, if it doesn't affect your child, etc. But I would just be wary of rushing to solve the problem here, because I don't know what the timeline is between the divorce and when this message was sent, but just give it time, work on yourself, and hopefully as you do that, get yourself out there in the dating scene, things will work out. But I would say don't rush the process unless you're trying to have more kids. Then it's a different discussion. But yeah.
Okay, let me also give my take, and it'll be brief because I think I basically agree with what both of you guys are saying. But as the only married gent here, is that correct, Tinto? As the only married gent here, I think there's two important things I want to say. Number one, all of us can relate to the idea of, I had an idea of how this would work and it didn't work out that way. Almost everyone has experienced that. So sometimes it really feels like, man, I'm looking at everyone else and it worked out for them. Why didn't it work out for me? Everyone has their own it didn't work out story. So you're not the only person who's experiencing that, firstly. So I feel like the tone of this letter or this mail, I guess, really feels like I'm almost like I'm beating myself up because of the situation that I'm in. Maybe that's not what you're doing, and I don't want to put that on you. But I think it's probably an encouraging word just to be like, yo, sometimes things don't work out, and it's not your fault. Maybe it's not even your ex-husband's fault. Maybe it is. In what you described, it sounds like it is. But for people in general, sometimes it doesn't have to be anyone's fault. Sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the road. It's not, we failed, it's done. No, that particular thing didn't work out. We move forward. Somewhat aligned to that thought process is we put so much importance on a romantic relationship because that's what every song is about. That's what every movie is about. That's what every book we read is about. But that's only one of the elements to life. There's friendships, career, family, hobbies, all these other things that come together to make a fulfilled and complete life.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that having a happy, healthy relationship is also a contributing factor to feeling happy. It is. But it's not the only thing. No one has everything 100% figured out. Right now, your romantic life is not 100% figured out. Understood. That's why you've gone through a divorce and you're going through these issues. That's okay. You can also work on the other things as well. Make sure that you have fulfilling friendships. Do you need to reach out to some friends and make that a stronger part of your life? Are there some friendships that maybe you kind of neglected during your marriage because you were paying so much attention to husband and child that now you could actually reach out to these friends and pursue a bit more of a fulfilling relationship in your friendships or in your family or whatever. The romantic aspect, maybe you need to take a break for a short while. Like Phil said, I don't know how long it's been since this whole thing happened, but maybe it's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll sort it out. For now, let's focus on some of the other things that contribute to a fulfilling, happy life. And then we can always come back to this one. And also, like Phil said, it's a social construct, man. Time is nothing more than a metered way of measuring the passing of an uncaring universe. Don't sweat it. It's okay. I hear the urgency in that. I don't want to be a 40-year-old still in the streets. Listen, listen. The 40-year-olds, you being in the streets doesn't mean not being married. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like there's people in the streets who are there because they're desperate for affection and whatever. You could be single in your 40s and fulfilled and happy and still meet someone. It's okay. It's no biggie. It's fine. You know what I mean? Or you could meet someone next year. Or you could meet someone 10 years from now. It's fine. I found that putting that kind of pressure on yourself will end in you making decisions that you might regret. Because you're now making a decision out of desperation or out of, I need to be with someone because I don't want to be 40 years old and by myself. As opposed to, is this someone I actually want to be with? Is this someone who meets certain criteria? And like Tinto said, now that you've gone through this experience and you're only 31, you've got a very valuable knowledge, experience to fall back on and build on.
Yeah.
Then the final point I want to mention is comes to the marriage part. You mentioned, for example, like I see Dan and his wife, and I also want that for myself and my daughter. We all humans showcase highlights. They don't showcase the low parts. All right. My wife and I are happily married. We are happy with each other, but we also have fights, and we also have low points that we're not going to post that on our social media, obviously. So don't feel so pressured that, man, my marriage had so many low points and I look at someone else's and it's all high points. No, we also have fights and we also have arguments and things we disagree on. And it is what it is. Over time, it's worked out for us. We've been able to understand each other. We've been able to compromise on certain things so that we are happy with each other's sort of view of how this marriage can go. And hopefully we can grow from that. But there's other situations where some of the fights we had could have ended a marriage. They could have ended a marriage if we couldn't come to an agreement or a place of mutual understanding. Thankfully, we were able to. And we're able to grow from that, and we're able to make a stronger relationship. In your situation, you were unable to. And you've given, I think, very valid reasons for why it couldn't continue. I completely understand. So I guess the final bit of advice I would say is, don't feel the pressure by looking at other people's relationships, because you don't know what's happening. You don't know I've heard some stories just in the last couple of weeks about some other marriages that made me think like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you're going through that. But if
people are going through it, bro. People are going through it.
People are going. But if you were to look at their social media, you would think, oh my goodness, these guys are living the perfect life. But the stories I heard, I was like, I'm so sorry this is what you're going through. So I hope this is kind of helpful, C. Let me read the next one, Phil.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
That one was a bit rough, but this one is still rough, but from a lighter perspective. The subject is Side Dude Chronicles.
Ooh.
Says, man, back in college, I ended up being the side dude to this fine girl. Like, distract you on your way to class fine. Her main man had graduated and moved to another city, so I slid into that side role like it was an unpaid internship with benefits. At first, it was lit. No drama, no obligations, just good vibes and stolen moments. I honestly thought being the side dude was a cheat code to life. No emotions, bet I'm built for this. Until I wasn't. Somewhere along the way, I caught feelings heavy. I sat Shorty down like, look, I think we got something real here. She looked me dead in the eye and said, you need to learn how to play your role. Sweating emoji.
Dan, did you write this letter?
I've never been. Oh, actually, I was about to say I've never been a side dude, but I just remembered a story. Never mind. I should have taken the L right there and gone home, but nope. I kept trying to make us official like I was applying for a promotion that didn't exist. Next thing I know, she just started ignoring me. No texts, no calls, not even a K message, just silence. Bro, I was heartbroken. Out here rewatching our old texts like they were rom-com clips. That's when I retired from the side dude game for good, respectfully, because whew, that was pain. And the plot twist, she married the main guy. Yep, put a ring on it. After God. Fear women.
After God, fear human experience.
But also fear women. Fear men, just fear humans.
What were you doing being a sad dude in the first place, bro? Like,
you didn't meet the qualifications, brother. You didn't meet the
Tinto.
qualifications,
Okay,
brother.
First of all, let's start. You're in college, so you're in your early 20s. You see a fine ting. That fine ting says, no, but I got a man. And then your response is, that's okay. That's all right. I don't mind. As long as you don't mind, I don't mind. You see, you're not thinking long-term, obviously. But I can see how that could happen.
You know what the funny thing is, like, we've discussed it over these 2 episodes about like how I need to touch the stove to get burnt. I thank God that I've always had the discretion. Usabate junjemun.
sad watcher.
Because that one I've read, that one I've known from time. You don't touch something. Because I've seen.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen people in hospital.
Let me. It sounds funny and jokey and fun, maybe it's a little bit different if it's like it's kind of your boyfriend in college, but not really your boyfriend, but kind of. Maybe the situation is different. But yeah, don't touch. Don't. If someone is someone else, if someone is in a committed relationship with someone else, step back, yo. Just leave it. Just leave it. Don't. It sounds thrilling. It sounds interesting. Don't do that. Just don't do that, man. Either feelings are going to get hurt or physical hurt is going to happen somewhere along the line.
So I used to have the limited worldview that you should feel guilty and leave that alone. Until I had an episode called Vintage 24 Sex that came out on the Pheeling Station podcast. And that really put my worldview into check. And I've been thinking different ever since that point. Basically, this chick was openly a side chick, did not hide it, was very transparent about it. I knew this guy had a chick and I wanted him. And I said, didn't you feel bad about doing that? And guess what she said? It's not my responsibility to make sure that the relationship is intact. I know what I want and I'm going for it. It's his duty and his responsibility to make sure that he's loyal and faithful to his woman. If he can't do that, that's none of my business. And I remember thinking, Shamad, we can't operate like that.
I have thoughts.
Until I came to terms with the fact that it's actually true. Why are you allowing your house to go on fire in the first place? It's a character flaw with you as an individual, the one who's receiving 2 cookies.
So, Tinto.
Okay, yeah, Dan, you say it, then I'll also jump in.
Okay. I heard that episode. I listened to it. And I had thoughts.
Yeah.
So, I agree with you. The primary responsibility of maintaining loyalty and exclusiveness in a relationship belongs to the person who is in the relationship. But
Correct.
to completely absolve yourself, I think is cope, as the kids say. You're saying something to make yourself feel better or to justify actions that everyone understands are not proper actions. Let me explain. Look, society, sometimes there's certain social rules that exist in society simply because we're social creatures. If those rules didn't exist, it would be chaos. So simple things like, I'm not going to take the stuff that is on your side of the house because it belongs to you. There's no law written anywhere that says that if it's on that side or on this side, but we just understand that's yours, this is mine. Give way to each other, greet each other to be polite. Some people don't greet, and people can see that that's kind of not great, but fine. If everyone decided we're not greeting each other, we get to a place where, okay, that social construct starts to break down a little bit. That's maybe in certain contexts it's fine, but my point is, as an understanding that we live in a social environment, if I'm in an exclusive relationship with someone else, it's not illegal. It's not illegal for you to make a move on her, but there's an understanding that, if you do that, you now have beef with me. If you move in that way, society is right to view you as being wrong. The primary responsibility is the person who is in the relationship. I agree. But that doesn't completely absolve responsibility of the person who can see that there is a relationship and I'm coming to break up that relationship. And I don't care because I'm only after what's mine. I don't care, I'm only after what's mine is not a healthy way of approaching the world. I don't care, I only want what's mine is what causes a lot of problems. That I don't care who I hurt, I'm just trying to get what I want. I mean, you're the one who's supposed to care about that other person. I don't care about that person. I don't even know that person. What are you saying? Okay, if I'm driving on the street and then I see a kid playing with a ball close to the street, I have right of way. It's my right of way to go. But that kid has kicked the ball in the street and they've run into the street. I could say, hey, I have right of way. That kid is the one who's wrong. Why are they playing in the street? But obviously any reasonable person would understand that, I'm going to brake. I'm going to drive slow.
That's a nice view, but I think from a philosophical point of view, because anybody who operates with the worldview to say, I want mine and I'm going to go for it, is actually a high achiever globally. Donald Trump does not give a shit about migrants, right? And he's world leader, right? He's leader of the US. Out here in the UK, they don't give a shit about taxation, right? And they're increasing the taxes for us who are the poor folk who are working really difficult 9-to-5 jobs just to make a random living. But we still have to give to the government that's in power because they were very clear about what they want. So this individual who wants this woman is well within their right to want this woman. It's the responsibility of that woman to say no because I've got something good and something better. I know we want to say that you shouldn't do that and this is not how things are, but tell me anybody in the world who has pushed for what they want and they've not got it.
So here's my pushback. I think with the example you've given of Donald Trump, I think as somewhat more high, I think somewhat removed from this is you have to ask yourself, like, what type of person you want to be. Like, everyone has their moral code, right?
Yeah.
And as Dan said, the reason we have societal norms is if we don't, then all the sociopaths will continue to thrive. They already are thriving, but even within that, sociopaths still operate within some form of parameters because they're like, this is a bit too far.
But where do they not thrive, Phil? Tell me where they do not thrive. You know, people view Putin as a sociopath.
I'm not denying that whether they thrive or not. That is I think unquestionable. The question is, do you also, like, as a human, do you want to be the type of person that's like, okay, I see them thriving, they're breaking all the rules. I also want to hey, English has failed me. I also want to be replicate that or be emblematic of what they're doing and live my life the way they live their life. That's one thing. But also, there are consequences to certain things, regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
The more powerful you are, it's easier to swat those consequences away. And in this example, the small consequence that you dealt with was heartache, which is a small thing. The bigger consequence could have been you could have had someone knocking at your door saying, and when that beatdown happens, the community, once they hear the story, they're not going to step into defense. They're going to be like, Garo.
Yeah, and I get your question, Tinto, but it's still coming from the perspective of I'm going for what I want. Now, it's true, you might get what you want. It's true. You're right. Like, the people who go for what they want, regardless of who they hurt, regardless of who they swat aside along the way, yeah, maybe they will get what they want. But the discussion here is, are you the type of person who doesn't care about hurting other people on the road to getting what you want? If you are, then it's fair for other people to say that you're a trash person. Yes, you got what you wanted, but you're a trash person. And we can see how people feel about the likes of Donald Trump. And then on top of that, like Phil said, there are consequences. So it's true, you could get what you want, but is the only motivation for what we do in life is to get what I want? Surely there's some things that we do that are not for what I want. There's some things that we do for someone else or to make others feel good. There's people who do charity, not because they'll get anything out of it, because I'm trying to make someone feel good. Or there's people who, you don't even have to go as far as charity. There's things that we refrain from doing just because we don't want to hurt other people. I could make a lot of money just being a drug dealer. I could. If what I want is money, I could. But there's consequences. One, I'd be falling foul of the law. I'd be going to jail. But also, I don't want to be, I think about the families that are going to be destroyed. I think about the kids that are hurt. There will be someone else who doesn't care about that and they get the money. And I could look at them and say, yeah, but you went for what you wanted and you got it. But I would also look at them and say, but I don't want to be that person though. I don't want to be that kind of person.
Because we're kind of giving feedback, reflections on this contribution. What you're basically saying is this guy who did this move and became a side dude and has given us a side dude chronicles, you got what was coming for you. Good for you.
No.
We're not saying
That's the vibe I'm getting, because he went for what he shouldn't have, because he wanted something. He was looking after number one, looking after himself. I want the sex. I want the good times. I want everything that comes with it.
So I think regardless of situation, there are universal truths. One of those universal truths is cause and effect. Yes, you can go for whatever you want, but everything has a price. Everything. So the price for migrants being kicked out of America is the political blowback, the protests, what's happening across the country, the no king protests, etc., etc., etc. That's just a small thing. Then there's going to be legal fights, all the above.
Yeah.
The issue with taxation, I'm sure there are people taking to the street, there are people protesting. I've been seeing clips from Glastonbury about people not only protesting what's happening in Gaza, but also protesting what's happening politically in the UK. So that's part of the, like, everything has a price. And I think that's why we also need to be cognizant of is nothing happens within a vacuum, right? So if that's the type of person you want to be, sure, everything has a cost. And we can't, everyone has also their moral standings. So I can't force someone to see things the way I do. But what we can say is universally, everything has a cost. And here's a good example. I actually remember this story while we're talking about, you were mentioning billionaires.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw Jeff Bezos got married over this weekend.
Yes, he did. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
Dropped 65 million to rent. Basically, bought out a city for a weekend. There's a very famous. She's now become more of an influencer, but a very famous tech reporter called Kara Swisher. Kara Swisher hosts a podcast, and I was listening to a clip a few weeks ago. She was making fun of. She was clearly talking about Jeff Bezos. She was like, "I know about 5 people who don't know a billionaire who's getting married recently, but they've all received invitations to his wedding. And all of them are confused. They're like, why is this man sending us weddings?" And she was laughing and saying, "I know for a fact this man has no friends."
Mm.
There's a real example of the cost of becoming the 100 billionaire that he is. Jeff Bezos has no friends. Like, he's inviting people to his wedding and people don't even know him. They're like, why am I getting an invite to his wedding? It's fine. You're flying me out to Italy. You're hosting me in a city. I'm going on the yacht just for the fun of it, Ndoya. But let's not get him misconstrued. I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
That's the cost. So you have to ask yourself, what type of life do you want to live? Like, you can get what you want, but it comes at a cost. So my man has all the money in the world, but apparently doesn't have any friends.
So, okay, also coming back to this letter, I don't think this letter made us start talking about the concept of side dudes, and then it went to the concept of cheating. So all this conversation wasn't necessarily directed at him. I think directed at him, it's like, hey man, sometimes you're young, you do your thing, whatever, and as seen, there are consequences. But just as out of interest, don't become the side dude. That's just not. It's not.
That's the basic message.
Yeah. But it's not coming from a place of judgment, because I literally I was about to say I've never been a side dude, then I just remembered a situation, and I was like, no, that didn't.
Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
Not only was
gotta
it,
catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
not only did it suck for me, it was not. When I look back, I'm like, nah, man, that was really dumb.
It left a bitter taste in
That was
so
really
are we
dumb.
saying that the basic bottom line to this side dude chronicle is don't do it?
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Or just a proper risk assessment, because some people
Risk assessment.
some people will assess it and be like, it's worth it. I'll do what I want, and it's fine. But don't then be confused or hurt when the chickens come home to roost in this. Because everything is a cost. Nothing comes for free. Let's see. Okay, we've got another one here called "Am I the Drama?"
Okay, let's make this the last one, Phil, and then the others we'll do in following episodes.
Okay.
So shall I do the next one?
Please.
Let's see. In fact, you can choose. Actually, if you want to take it, I think we've got 3 more. You can pick one.
Okay, cool. So I just picked at random. This one, again, I'm not going to say the name. Subject is, "Am I the Drama?" The message is, "Hi, boop, here from Harare. I never miss an episode. You guys make my combi rides bearable. I need your advice. I'm dating a guy. He's a good guy, but hana plan." For me, red flag. If you know what I mean, I'm a graphic designer. Second red flag. Always online. Third red flag. Looking for the next big gig. Fucking hell, should I even say it? I'm getting tired of saying that this is another red flag. I'm trying to build my brand. My God. My life is my work. Do I need to go on with this?
Just read.
Or shall I just stop here? But what do you guys want me to do?
Merenga money.
My man came to
I'll continue.
He came
I'll
to
continue.
alienate our listeners.
My life is my work, and I'm trying to make myself something great. He's more traditional. He has his 9-to-5 job, which is fine, but he doesn't understand my world. He complains I'm always on my phone, asks why I have to answer emails at 9 p.m. and thinks my internet friends are not real friends. He wants the girlfriend who has dinner ready and is free every weekend. I want a partner who gets the hustle, maybe even someone I can build with. As it stands, he does not have his own car or house. He has a Honda Fit from his job. Why is it important to mention that he has a Honda Fit from his job? Okay. But this is not his. And when we have to take a road trip, we use my car. He is renting in town and has 2 roommates. So we are always at my place because I have 1 roommate. Am I wasting my time? Are my expectations too high for the dating scene in H-Town right now? Or am I the wrong person? Should I try and make him understand, or just cut my losses and go back to being a single Pringle? I think you already know my view with this. I don't know if I should bother answering this.
Tinto sounds like he's such a big fan of her. Like,
No, Tinto. I want you to change the name of your podcast to Just Break Up with Him.
Look, I'm not a fan of unintentional bullshit. Right, I hope you don't. If you guys need to bleep this, I'm sorry, bleep this out because I'm not sure what your audience, whether you have swear words or you don't. Right, this is unnecessary bullshit. I know we spoke about a saying that I read very briefly, and I really don't want to cut this conversation short. But it says you are not asking for too much; you're asking the wrong person. You're in a world with somebody who doesn't understand graphic design. You're in a world with someone who doesn't understand working long hours. You're in a world with someone who doesn't understand that it's okay to no, it's not okay not to have your own car. It's not okay to have a Honda Fit. It's not okay to have a room with 2 roommates. Leave it alone. I don't know how much capacity you guys have for time wasting. You know, and now I get all the Sekurus who whinge about who are in their 80s who chat stuff as they think and they say it as it is. They have no capacity for both.
Okay. I'm going to have a slightly softer view. And hear me out. On the one hand, I agree with you. You must, like, if someone is more traditional and someone more liberal, you're obviously going to struggle. Imagine you get married.
Yeah.
Imagine you now get married. Do you think he will just be like, oh, no, it's okay. He's going to start enforcing certain things. He's going to start saying, nah. After this time, you can't be working. And it's going to start affecting your business and so on. So to a certain extent, I do agree with you. However, I'm tempted to ask how old are the people in this story? Because I've also learned that we're all traveling the life path at different speeds.
Yeah.
So it's possible that you've reached the stage and in your mind, the world is not just a simple 9 to 5. You got to hustle. You got to build your brand. You got to build a business. You got to make things work so that you reach the goals that you want. And he's still on, no, I got to go to work and get my salary. By the way, neither of those are wrong or right. It's just different paths, right? But it's possible for one to feel the other. In fact, it's very likely in many cases that the person who has the 9 to 5 starts thinking about, no, but I can be more. I can do more. I could start my own business. But when do they wake up to that idea? It's not always instantly. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it's 5 years into my job, I realize that I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I would rather do my own thing. You know what? It could happen that, remember when my girlfriend was telling, I used to make fun of her. I used to have stress her out about her graphics design job. But now that I think about it, maybe I should become something else. I should be a freelance accounts person. I start offering my services to companies. I can build my brand that way until eventually I start my own auditing firm. And, that realization or kuvurika or whatever it is sometimes happens at different times in people's lives. Now, I'm not saying you must wait for it to happen. I'm saying you must ask yourself the tough question of, do I believe it's possible that this could happen? If so, am I willing to wait for it to happen? And what will I do if it doesn't happen? And if you're able to ask yourself those questions, you might come to the conclusion that, I think maybe I must just save myself the potential heartache and the potential resentment that we're going to have towards each other in the future and just end things now. So I don't think it's as simple as straightforward as, you two are different, end it. I think it's worth thinking about, is there a potential that either I could change in his direction or he could change in my direction? If the answer is no, then you know what to do. If the answer is maybe, what if he doesn't? Can you still make the same decision? That's how I think about it.
Can I ask you a question, the two of you? Right? Both of you are in the creative space.
Yeah.
You really are. Phil, on the marketing side, Danny, with the radio stuff that you do. Can you confidently tell me there's a point that your brain switches off? Confidently. No. You're creatives.
No.
Tell me you have a point in your day where your brain actually switches off. It doesn't. She's a graphic designer. She's in the same space we're all in. We're creatives. Our brains do not switch off by default. That is who you are as an individual. He, on the other hand, I think has the opportunity for his brain to switch off. So what are you really asking him to do? To get his brain more active? How?
Exactly.
Or you're asking her. You're asking her to switch
creative
off.
people marry non-creative people all the time.
No, I think we're generalizing, but we've got a specific example here. And I think what Tinto's saying is correct. But also, to me, I can also start siding with Tinto. It's like there are things you're bringing up that to me are red flags, not necessarily to the relationship, but to your mindset. So
Yeah.
and and I think it's very much that almost, I hate to bring his name up, but it's that Vusi Tembekwayo entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
an entrepreneur works
Hustle
for their
culture,
dreams. Someone working a 9 to 5, you're making another man's dreams come true, blah 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 blah. Like at the end of the day, that's nonsense. Guys, Zimbabwe, Mawan. Let's be blunt and honest. Zimbabwe, Mawan.
Yeah.
The fact that
Yeah.
Panemun Anebasa has got a job at 9 to 5, we don't know what his salary is, but it seems to be a good enough job where they're providing him with a vehicle, he can afford rent. He may be smart and he has 3 roommates or 2 roommates in this regard because he's saving up. We don't know. He might not be getting.
But look at how those are described as Hana plan.
Exactly, and this is what I'm saying. Like, and that's why I'm coming back to it, because coincidentally enough, in fact, let me deal with this, and I'll come back to the an example I had just as recently as yesterday. So all this, to me, points to the fact that you guys aren't having conversations, because at this point, there's no conversation to say, "Hey, I need to be on my phone for ABCDE." If he can't understand that, as Tinto is saying, then why are you trying to squeeze water out of a stone, right? The tone of this conversation comes across as someone who's a bit young and maybe a bit materialistic. I can't tell from the thing, but the fact that you mentioned his living situation, the fact that you mentioned the car he has, etc., makes it feel like you might be a bit dramatic. Even like with the title, like that's a Cardi B reference. It might be leaning towards that. So I would say there's a conversation that needs to be had here. And if you guys can't find middle ground, it's okay to, as Tinto keeps saying, find the right person for you. That's one example. The other example I'm bringing up is, so funny enough, a patron, I had drinks with a patron last night. And then a friend of theirs came over. And the friend seems to be doing very well for them. This friend, to their credit, studied really well, has a very high-ranking profession. I wouldn't say the profession less that I divulge, but it's one of those professions that our parents want us to go to university to get, between law, medicine, engineering, in the one of those. And we're just discussing, and they were like, yo, if you were to date, what would you date for? Would you date for love? Would you date for money? And the person said, I'll date for money. And we're like, okay, it's fair. At least you're being honest. Cool. And then we proceeded to have a very blunt and honest conversation of the realities of what dating for money looks like. And we could see in real time this person having, for the first time, it seemed, a real understanding of what it actually means to date for money, what the practicality of dating someone in Harare or in Zimbabwe who has money. Because they were like, you know what, I wouldn't even mind being like 1 of 4 in the roster, blah, blah, as long as I'm being provided for. They were like, cool. This is what it looks like. Either you're gonna date a mdara, and the mdaras that are gonna provide that type of lifestyle, this is what they're gonna do. Right? Or you're gonna date someone more of your age group, this is what they're gonna do. And these are the consequences, right? And particularly when we got to the topic of, you're probably gonna get an STI. You could see literally their face went gray. Because, and keep in mind, like, this is a very educated person who's working in a pretty demanding field, but they're also saying, like, I also want financial security. But they hadn't really thought it through, or maybe they hadn't had an opportunity to have the conversations with people that understand the other side of it. And I was like, fam, I've been working in clubs since I was 17. I've seen what the other side looks like. And I'm not speaking from theoreticals. I can give you names and what I'm obviously not going to do that, but I can tell you this is exactly what goes down. And I think also it translates to this person here is, you might be able to find someone with a nicer car than Honda Fit, sure. But nothing comes for free. As we say, everything has a price. You can pursue what you want, but it comes for a price. And you might realize 10, 15 years from now that, you know what, I was being so vain. I was worried about a guy having a 9 to 5 and stability. Because the other thing that
Phil is advocating for people to date broke. I've now seen.
No.
I've now caught.
What I don't know. What I'll also say is, my closing remark is, especially in Zimbabwe, if you're in the creative industry, you might be inching towards success. But creative industries are like this. You have peaks. It's feast and famine. Peaks, troughs. Peaks, troughs. It might behoove you to have someone with some stable income, because when the clients aren't responding and they're not paying, at least there'll be someone who knows at the last Friday of every month, Mari yang rupint.
Yeah, I would agree with you, except Zim, mawan. Even people with salaries. The one thing that I think we might not be considering is it unreasonable to ask Kuti, baby, I know that you have this kind of job that demands so much of your time, but I also want you to pay some attention to our relationship. Could you not also spend some time?
Yeah, that's not unreasonable. In fact, that's more a we component of the conversation here, right? Can I just point out something to you both? And I don't know whether you still have this on your phones, but I have it on mine, and I'll just highlight a few things. Excuse me. The beginning of that message is, I need your advice, and then I'm dating a guy. If you know what I mean, I'm a graphic designer, right? And then after that, we have, I'm always on my phone. I have to answer. I have internet friends. I want a partner. I can build. Dude, I have a roommate. Am I wasting my time, or am I with the wrong person? And I hope you see where I'm going with this. A lot of this conversation is very self-centered. It's about what I, as a graphic designer, can derive as a benefit. I'm looking at the references for we, and the only we that I can find is he is renting in town. He has 2 roommates, so we are always at my place. I don't know if you can see any other we in that chat.
Look, I hear you, but we're extrapolating off a message.
So off the back of that, all I was just basically going to say is, fundamentally, the view is not from a we perspective. And if it shifted to a lot of we's, there'll be a whole lot more unity in this. There's more accountability. There's more, there's a reduction of self-centeredness. There's more of a corporation view. Let's possibly think about sitting down and talking about what our different work styles do to us as a couple. And maybe they've had the conversation. I don't know. But the references to I for me in this are very uncomfortable. There are way too many.
Ultimately, obviously, we don't know the full story. We're basing it on what we have, right? So I think it's worth mentioning that there's several options.
More I statements. Did you hear that, Tinto? More I statements.
There's several things that could be true. So I see maybe she's focusing a little bit on herself. It's possible, but we don't know for sure. I also see what Phil is saying, that are you being a little bit materialistic? Maybe, but obviously we can't know for sure. We're just kind of extrapolating from this message. Or maybe this dude really is incompatible with you. Maybe his mindset is completely different to what yours is, which I think...
Leave him.
In fact, to be honest, that's probably the only thing that we can be sure of, because that's what you described, yeah, right?
Leave him. Long thing. You're not asking you're not asking for too much. You're asking the wrong individual. Leave him.
Leave him. Find yourself someone.
Go to that dude who's a side nigga. Let's see how that works out.
That having been said, guys, there's nothing out there. I be hearing y'all stories. If you listen to the Pheeling Station, that's the one thing I've learned. Get out the streets. Get out the streets as fast as you can.
Yeah, shit. Hey, some of these ones, I think Dan will have to figure out how to answer these. There's one that seems a little urgent. Yeah.
We're not a therapy podcast.
Yeah.
How can you say it feels a little urgent? Now you got me worried.
I'm going to need to jump off in about 2 minutes because I'm going
somewhere. I think we're wrapping it up now. Yeah, we'll do these next week. But yeah, Tinto, this was great, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I know this is taking us some time to get in the works.
No, you're welcome, gents. So just to clarify for you guys, I was deliberately, I think, antagonistic on it because I think it drives the conversation home. There's always 2 sides to a coin, but this last one for me is definitely a problem.
Stand 10 toes down.
Yeah, no, for her, I'm 10 toes down.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for tuning into another episode of Two Broke Twimbos, a special edition with guest Tinto coming through from the Pheeling Station podcast. Make sure you go check out the Pheeling Station episode on the podcast where we go a little bit too personal. I'm actually now thinking, I'm now worried. People are going to hear the story.
Don't be worried. Relax. You're fine.
People are going to hear the story. Now my wife is going to listen to the podcast. She'll be like, oh, wait, you never told me this story. And I'm like, no, but I did, babes, remember.
See, what had happened was.
All right. So, twobroketwimbos.com/donate if you want to become a Patreon member, because then you can be part of the conversations where your stories could also be read on the podcast. Maybe we'll have a special something in the group together with Tinto if he's available to us to maybe do a live Q&A session. What do you think of this? Blah, blah, blah. And also in future, I noticed, Tinto, you've done a couple of episodes where your midweek drops and you're sort of analyzing previous episodes.
Yeah.
Some episodes, I'll be telling you, I'll be thinking like, man, I got a lot to say. Jumbo Bata, and I'll do a midweek drop with you at some point.
I would love that with you guys. I really would.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I think we're going to take opportunity of this to sign out. This was a late episode, but you're welcome. We still put something together. And we'll catch you in the next one. We out.
We out.
Peace.